wait a second. Could that one disparate little thing I learned in that article written in the 50s have something to do with this article here? And then you bring it all together, right? And I read literature chronologically, always start with the oldest, right? So I can kind of get my heads into the research, just like, so it's like a detective story for me. I don't want to read the recent review and get swayed by whatever some contemporary reviewer's thinking about it. I want to read the original literature, the primary literature, and I want to go through it as the researchers did. Plotting what's the next research question? Are they going to get answered? Are they going to remain unanswered? And so every little research question is this whole kind of historical deep dive. And you can't, if you get interrupted, it takes you a while to kind of get back into that. And so then things start to make sense. Then the connections start to come. Otherwise, it's just another kind of superficial review that anyone could do.
Yeah, you don't want to write that book.
So it's like a review of reviews. Okay, if you're writing a term paper or something, all right, you get the most recent meta-analyses, most recent systematic reviews, and you just say, okay, this is what the literature says. No, this is what these bunch of reviewers say the literature says, right? But when it comes to something as life and death important as to what to feed yourself and your family, I want to get at the truth. And as far as I could tell, this hadn't been done in the obesity arena. And so the harder it became, the more I realized how valuable the project was. Because there's just no way, like a practicing physician could delve this deep. Yeah. And then, someone off the street, it's just completely, there's no way they could keep up.
Did you ever think you're bitten off more than you could chew?
Oh, yes. And in fact, I realized that after I started working on it. So I did it the absolute wrong way. I said, look, I'm going to give myself a year to write the book. Like, I just couldn't just stand the thought psychologically.
You had this book planned a while ago, right?
Oh, yeah.
You always planned like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. So I've got, I think I've got like the next 4 books planned out.
Right,
So
because the last time you were here, you had already talked about How Not to Diet and then How Not to Age.
Yeah, that's the next one, 2022, right?
You still got other books already planned after that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I'm always, the research is always pouring in. I'm already doing it just to get videos up on the website. But it's the deep dive that happens. So I gave myself a year, and then I realized how much the literature was. I said, wait a second, I can't do it in a year. There's no way. You could just parse it out. I can read, it takes me this long to read a study on average. It takes me this long to annotate it. It takes me this long. There's just not that many hours. And so even though I have this whole research team now, right, where I have 14 people churning through studies, I got people that will pull articles from any library in the world, basically.
Right. And you're also publishing daily on your website, right?
So that's the 3rd year. So 1 year I write the book. 1 year I go around the world speaking about the book. And that 3rd year is I script out 3 years worth of videos for Nutrition Facts.
3 years.
So little people know, right? So some video comes up, today's video. So people come up to me all the time. I love this morning's video. I'm like, what's this morning's video? Like, I don't even, because I may have scripted that video a year ago, and I just have to pray that broccoli's still good for you, that it's not outdated by the time that because there's no way I can do it all together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the How Not to Die concluded pretty much that plant-based is the way to not die from those 15 different ailments, right?
It's the best thing we can do in terms of, so it's the only diet ever proven to reverse heart disease, #1 killer here in the UK, and much of the Western world. Only diet ever to reverse our #1 killer in the majority of patients. No other diet. So, if that's all a plant-based diet could do, then, reverse our #1 killer. Shouldn't that be the default diet until proven otherwise? So that's really where I ended that book. And the fact they can also be so effective in prevent, arrest, and reverse other leading killers like type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure. It would seem to make the case for plant-based eating simply overwhelming.
Right.
And so that's really where it left.
And the top 5 in that book were, like you said, diabetes, heart disease. What were some of the other?
No, so number one heart disease, #2 cancer, right? And then depending on country we're going to, there's stroke, Alzheimer's, now up to actually 3, not for premature death, but for death overall here in the UK.
Okay.
Alzheimer's is skyrocketing.
Yeah, we need to talk about that too.
Okay.
So you came to the conclusion of that book, and it's like, all right, plant-based for all this stuff. Now you go into this book, How Not to Diet. how do you remain agnostic while you're pouring through all the research and think, okay, I'm trying to find the best stuff,
right?
But you just wrote a book that said plants are the best stuff.
Right.
So how do you do that? And you've gone on record to say that nobody should ask you what to eat. They should understand it themselves, right? They should make the decisions themselves.
Well, I mean, when they ask me, right. So certainly, but I don't even want them to ask my opinion. I don't have opinions. I mean, all I can say is I can show you what the science shows, right? Like, what do you think about this? What do you mean I think about this? Who cares what I think about this? Who cares what I eat? Who cares what? It's what does the science show, right? It's your body, your choice. You want to smoke a pack of cigarettes a day, go bungee jumping, it's your body, your choice. But as a physician, all I can do is share with you, based on knowledge and experience, people in your situation who continue to do X, Y, and Z, here are the predictable consequences of your actions. And then it's up to you. Right? That's the informed consent. That's all I care about.
And that's important because, look, I spent a year plant-based last year doing my Ironman race. We made a movie about it, and it was great. But I also understood there's a lot of people get caught up emotionally in the movement. There's also the vegan movement, which I know you don't call yourself a vegan because you're like, I'm plant-based. Vegan tells you, I think you told me last time, what not to eat
right.
and what not to wear and that kind of thing.
Right.
And I've seen the kind of a cult go around it, and sometimes people get very emotional, and that way it's not scientific anymore.
Right.
That's a little frustrating.
There's a religiosity, right? There's this kind of...
How does that make you feel?
There's a zealotry involved. And the downside, I mean, and anybody, I mean, you come across something and you make this important realization. I mean, there's this natural urge to like, wow, I didn't realize this, and you wanted to go preach out and tell everybody about it, especially the people that you love, the people you care about. I mean, you want to go out and be like, wait a second, do you know that you don't have to die from heart disease? You don't have to, you can reverse your diabetes. Of course, you're going to have that passion, especially for those closest for you that you want around for a little while, right? Yeah. But that kind of preachiness, I mean, no one wants to be told, what to do, particularly what to eat. Very personal decision.
Very personal, right?
It's tied into family and culture and absolutely.
In America, it seems like you don't tell in America, just
yeah.
Your
Hands
food
up,
is almost like
don't
should
tread
be one of the
on me.
amendments, right? My right to bear arms and right to eat what I want.
Right. Apple pies in our veins.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Absolutely.
You are like you try to then stick really to the science.
So it's all about the science, right? And so open at all times for any argument. I mean, so people, as you as you open in the bio, he's an advocate of a plant-based diet. I'm an advocate of an evidence-based diet, and that just so happens to be a plant-based diet. But that my loyalty is to the science. My loyalty is not to any particular finding.
Okay. What if there was 100 studies that were published tomorrow with a billion sample size that said red meat was the best diet going forward?
Then I'd tell people to eat steak. I tell people to eat steak.
I appreciate that about you.
Well, no. I mean, no. I mean, but that's just, you got to follow the science, right? I mean, it's like if smoking all of a sudden is going to extend my life. I don't like the stuff, but and look, I may choose not to smoke, but I tell people, we're wrong, go out there and smoke if you want to live long.
Okay. All right, so you go in to do this How Not to Diet. What were some of the big things that started materializing as you're gelling and getting all this stuff? And again, you're underground, literally and figuratively. And I know because I reached out to you last year to actually do a Skype call for our documentary, and you said no, and it hurt my feelings, but I thought he's writing another big book. And people should also know that you donate the profits of your book to charity.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal.
No. Yeah.
That's a lot of money for your last book.
Well, no, I mean, but it's so important for so many reasons. I mean, so, it was, Nathan Pritikin saving my grandmother. I want to do for everyone's family what, Pritikin did for my family. And that's really what the motivation is. Yet there's this corrupting commercial influence in science in general, medicine and nutrition particularly, is, I didn't want to just get lumped in. So even if you're not selling some brand of snake oil supplements or foods, the fact that you're selling your book, you're selling your, then, I didn't want to get, you're only telling people to eat X, Y, and Z because you want to sell a book telling people to X, Y, and Z, right? Yeah. I didn't want to have that conflict, even that perceived conflict of interest. Yeah. So it's like, I'm doing this because I'm a physician, and I care about people, and I want people to live long, healthy lives, period, full stop. And that was very important to me.
Where does that money go?
So it's all, I don't even see, it's not that I donated to charity, it's in the book contract that it never comes to me, period. And so it goes to a donor advised fund, and then whatever, and then can go to any 501c3.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's kind of limited to U.S. nonprofits, but often you can find kind of U.S. affiliates elsewhere if you want to donate money around the world.
And there must be a chunk of change if you're selling $750,000 copies of books.
Even the advance for the new book, it was $1.5 million.
And it goes into charity.
Yeah, all charity.
It's crazy.
And then the royalties too. I mean, everything. Every penny.
It's a lot of money. Yeah. You mentioned Nathan and your grandmother. Can we tell that story really quickly? Just give people some context. Because I mean, it's important for them to know that there is a personal side of you that motivates you. It's not.
Well, this is how I came up. I mean, I would like to think, well, I'm just a scientist and I just found the science, right? But I mean, what drew me to even look into this was the story of my grandmother growing up. My dad's mom, who I was just a kid when she was sent home in a wheelchair with end-stage heart disease to die.
Wow. Where'd you grow up and what year was this?
So this is in the 70s. Okay. I was like 9 years old. She was living in Miami, and her life was over. She already had so many bypass surgeries. You basically run out of plumbing at some point. You get so scarred up inside, you can't even go back in. And so there's nothing more the medical profession would do, send her home to die, age 65. Right? And then on 60 Minutes, there was a story about this guy, Nathan Pritikin, who was starting this new clinic up in California, claiming he could reverse heart disease with diet, which the fact that heart disease reversal, period, was thought impossible. I mean, just like you get worse, and you die. Like most people think of diabetes today. You get worse, and you die. And then he came out and said, no, we can actually reverse heart disease, open up arteries without drugs, without surgery. Come to my clinic, I'll show you how to do it.
And this is 70s, 80s when he said this.
Late 70s.
Late 70s,
yeah.
Okay.
Started to open the clinic. And so my
60 Minutes, by the way, so people know, that was the only way you could hear about things back then. I mean, that was kind of the internet. That and Oprah.
Right. That was the big, right.
Especially for new ideas. You wouldn't hear that on the news.
And so somehow she made the cross-country trek in her condition to become one of his first patients. She's actually featured in Pritikin's biography called The Man Who Heals America's Heart. I talked about Frances Greger, describing her as one of the death's door people, where they wheeled her in, and she walked out. In fact, within 3 weeks, she was walking 10 miles a day. She was given
3 weeks.
3 weeks. It was a graded exercise program along with plant-based diet, and she because although it may take months for the actual plaque to open up, you can get an immediate improvement in the function. Arterial function, even though the arterial structure improvement can take months, but within weeks you can get 80-90% of angina gone, crushing chest pain that fast, meaning that could have happened a year before, 10 years before, and never happened in the first place. Like your body wanted to be healthy, but you were stabbing it with a fork 3 times a day, and all you had to do is just stop the re-injuring, and your body can heal on itself.
Right? Did it happen to anyone, or is it specific people have that reaction, or will most people?
Most people. Okay. So Ornish's work showed that about 80% of people actually get that clinical reversal, and the earlier you can catch it, the better. But one of the things about medical training I learned that I think was one of the most kind of hopeful signs was that within 15 years of stopping smoking, your lung cancer risk approaches that of a lifelong non-smoker. Isn't that amazing? Your lungs can clear out all that tar, and eventually it's almost as if you never started smoking at all. And every morning of our smoking life, that healing process starts to wham, first cigarette of the day, re-injuring our lungs with every puff, just like we can re-injure our arteries with every bite. When all we had to do all along, the miracle cure, is just stand back, stop re-damaging ourselves, and let our body's natural healing processes bring us back towards health. Right?
Yeah.
The human body's like a self-healing machine. We just have to stand back and let our body work its magic.
Yeah. I've done that a bit with cigarettes, with alcohol, and then last year with plant-based. And yeah, it is amazing.
Amazing.
It's interesting. My grandparents were cattle farmers, just like actually Dr. Neil Barnard's. So I watched my grandparents, go through that business, and then the diet that a lot of times just goes with that business as well. And they died of things that now I always wonder if it was preventable. Heart disease and stroke, and then more heart disease, and complications from putting stents in. And it always makes me wonder, if they had had other options.
But we didn't know back then. But now we do. And we've known since Ornish's first randomized control trial in 1990, July 21st, 1990. So for decades, we've known this. Yet in the States, hundreds of thousands of Americans continue to die needlessly from this preventable, arrestable, reversible condition.
Even when you're in the hospital for those diseases, they're feeding you the food.
Unbelievable.
I can't get you started about hospital food.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I was just scripting a video on hospital food, and actually most of the research on there is from the NHS. And it's not just the patients, but the staff too, are living out of the vending machines, right? And actually, they used to sell cigarettes in the gift stores of hospitals, yet the medical profession actually led the charge to eliminate cigarettes out of hospitals, and actually the first kind of occupational setting that eliminated smoking was the hospitals. And so it would be nice to see them take that same kind of initiative and get the junk out of the hospital. So for example, in California, you're not allowed to sell soda in vending machines in public schools, yet you go to the pediatric hospital and you can get all the soda you want. In fact, they may have a McDonald's or Krispy Kreme right in the actual hospital. And it's just like, what message are we sending when the bacon and eggs, just had your chest cracked open, and that's when you get the next morning? It's the message we're sending.
So that'll be one of your projects in the future, or you're constantly making videos about it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you saw your grandma go through that, and that inspired you. You weren't a doctor yet.
Well, no. Oh my God. Right. So 9 years old. And in fact, back then, it didn't even occur to me, right? Because for me, for a little kid, it was like, oh yeah, that's what happens. You get sick, you go to the doctor, you get better, right? Little did we know that was this just a near miraculous event back then, where we didn't even think heart disease was reversible, period. And it actually wasn't until Ornish was able to show with something called the quantitative angiography, where you actually inject a dye and actually see what's happening inside the arteries. All Pritikin had were clinical reversals, meaning someone can't walk, someone can't, chest pain, calf pain, and then all of a sudden start eating healthy and they feel so much better. And the skeptics are like, well, yeah, it was like placebo effect or whatever, until we can actually see what was happening inside the artery. So that's what Ornish had, and actually being able to prove it there in black and white, see these angiography pictures of the arteries opening back up without the surgery, without the drugs, as if you just put a stent in there, but it was like a stent made out of broccoli. That's what did. That's what opened that thing up.
And yet you could walk around and ask the average American today how they could save their grandma or their dad from heart disease, and they would not believe a plant-based diet.
They would just say, well, it's in my family. Well, yeah, you know what else is in your family? A lousy diet. That's what falls in. So for most these chronic lifestyle diseases, about 80%.
Hey everybody, thanks for being here at Wake Forest Veg Fest.
These are diseases no one has to die from. So that's most of what comes into a GP's office is diseases that could be reversed if the GP had the knowledge.
Good morning, and thank you for coming out. Can I please remind all vendors after unloading, can you please move your vehicle to the free parking spot?
Which treats the symptoms, right? So, the symptom of having high blood pressures, that's a symptom of having diabetes. So you can control the symptoms. So high blood pressure, that's a symptom of disease, stiffened, crippled arteries. And so, yeah, you can artificially bring the blood pressure down. And look, if you refuse to improve your diet and lifestyle, well, then, yeah, having lower blood pressure reduces your risk of stroke and kidney failure, etc. But you're going to have that disease for the rest of your life. That's why you have to take those drugs every day for the rest of your life. If you actually want to treat the cause, not only can you get rid of the disease, period, but actually works better, right, than just trying to deal with the symptoms. But of course, where's the money in that?
So is that ignorance of the doctors, or is there a financial incentive, or sometimes it's hard to tell?
It's the system. The system is just not set up to reward healthy behaviors. Doctors in the States aren't reimbursed for counseling patients on eating a healthier diet. And here, if you have 10 minutes with a patient, yeah, you can write a script, but can you really, talk to them about, what's in their cupboards at home? The system, and the same thing was like, why do we sell junk food? Why do we sell junk food? I mean, it's not like the CEO of Coca-Cola is sitting around thinking, how can I add to the childhood obesity epidemic? They're thinking, how can I satisfy my stockholders in the quarterly, and how do you do that? Dirt cheap ingredients, right, which is subsidized by taxpayers, sell for a couple bucks a bottle. It's like pure profit. Whereas produce, right, the healthiest food goes bad. I mean, it spoils. It's like the worst thing to sell, right? It's not a branded product. Even a broccoli grower is not going to put an ad on TV for broccoli because you just buy your competitor's broccoli. Like, there's just, the whole system is set up. You want a snack cake that sits on the shelves for a few weeks. Now, that's how you make money. And so it's not like there's this like conspiracy to make people sick. It's just there's a conspiracy to make people money. I mean, the system is to make people money. And unfortunately, what's most profitable happens to be what's least healthy. Yeah. And same thing in the medical field. All right. I mean, the most profitable thing as a primary care physician is what's called a blood pressure check. It's actually the most common primary care appointment. Is someone's has high blood pressure, on blood pressure medications. You come in, check your blood pressure, we tweak your meds. Right. Simplest thing. Doctor can do it in their sleep. Right. Easily billable. Right. The drug company's happy. Everybody's happy. Right? I mean, it just makes money for everybody.
It's a big profit margin. The insurance company reimburses it.
Everybody. I mean, it's like but, and so to come and say, well, no, wait a second. You don't have to be on these medications because you can get rid of the disease, dramatically decrease your, risk of these endpoints. But it just, there's no hooks there's no profit motive driving that end. And so all we have is the science. All we have is the information, be able to inform people, and it's just going up against these, really powerful industries.
Right, but people are listening because they're reading your books, and you see people making changes.
Yeah,
it's just
amazing.
It's just going against a system that blocks it.
Right, but I mean, that's what keeps me going. Is how many people who, if they knew it, would change. I mean, there are some people. Well, a lot of people, it takes a lot of different. Like the 10th time they hear about something, they start looking into it. But there are people who, once they know, the next day, that's it. They're done, right? And how many people are there out there, and they just haven't heard, right? I mean, until everyone. That's when I retire. When I retire, it's not when everyone's eating healthy. Everybody's just informed, right, of the risks and benefits. They know, and then they make their own decision. Look, make whatever decision you want, but the fact that the food industry is trying to confuse people, right, intentionally trying to muddy the waters, and you get all these conflicting messages. That's what I can't stand. I'm like, once you know the science, then make up your own mind.
So the food companies are playing a little fun and games with the this and the that, and the bacon is good, and the diet foods that have the sugar in it. So you're coming up against that. All right, let's talk about the movie Game Changers.
Yeah.
You're a scientific advisor to that.
Amazing.
I'm guessing that is an attempt to put out some ideas and messages in visual form to kind of counteract everything that's happening.
Tell me you've seen it.
I saw it.
And you think it's in there?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, James Wilkes was going to be here. And so, yeah. I saw it.
As far as I'm concerned, it is the single best piece of film ever put out by the plant-based movement. I mean, so basically, I mean, there's lots of resources out there.
Health and cowspiracy.
That all has the information. Forks Over Knives has the information, has the stories, the amazing life-changing stories. But what was lacking was that polished Hollywood production value, right? Take that amazing, all the science, the amazing stories, and then, put it in like and have enough money to really make a real documentary of it. I mean, not to put any of those others down, but people love those documentaries, not because they're great documentaries, but because of the information. But imagine if you had the information plus a really slick, well-produced, it's like the best of both worlds.
All right, so you're dealing with someone's kind of base level of brain, so they can just see the pictures and say, okay,
it's
I'm going to go to
just
this.
gorgeous.
And so how were you involved as scientific advisor?
Yeah. Well, so I originally, I was just called to be part of the film. I mean, to just be interviewed for the film. And I remember being with, James Wilkes. It was like in some little like seedy hotel with him, like the little camcorder on a tripod somewhere. And there was like highway noise outside, whatever, but we were trying to get something. It was when it was just like shoestring budget, blah, blah, blah.
Years ago.
Years and years ago. So, we did a couple of hours, and then he comes back to me. I haven't heard from him in a while. He comes back. He says, now we finally got some funding for the thing. we need to reshoot all the footage. I feel bad that we went through it, but I really want to get you the film, right? Okay. So we go back, we do the whole thing again, right? Research hours of, okay, but we get it all down. Okay. Then, I don't know, it's like another year goes by. Then it comes, okay, now we really have money. Then we got these fancy high-def cameras. We got,
James Cameron, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay. So we did it again. We do the whole other thing, a whole nother afternoon of film, and go through with the entire crew now and all the lighting, and then I get cut completely from the No, but I am 100% in favor. I mean, I wouldn't replace a frame of that movie with me or anybody else. I mean, it was just done perfectly. But
I would have rather seen you in that.
But the role that I was able to play is just to go through and make sure all the science is set.
Okay.
And so, I mean, that was very important to me, because what so often happens is if there's one little tidbit of the movie that is in the slightest bit misleading, they'll take that and baby out with the bathwater. I mean, that's all they need is one thing to attack. And so my constant refrain was, we want to take. So if you have like 5 statistic, for example, on how much water does a pound of beef make to make. And you could get like the USDA number, you could get like the environmental Greenpeace number, or the industry has their way skewed in the other direction. What statistics should we take? Well, we take the industry. We go bend over backwards to take the most conservative possible statistics, because then we are just untouchable, right? The science is so strong. I mean, by taking the weaker statistic or the biased statistic, you're almost saying like, yeah, the evidence is so weak, we have to exaggerate. No, it's so strong, we can under-exaggerate. We can go the opposite direction and still just have this overwhelming. So, I mean, that was my constant push. Let's just absolutely use the most conservative, and just trying to keep it, and everything cited to the teeth. I mean, that was just super important to me, because I knew how, as the movie evolved, I knew what an important tool it was going to be, and I did not want it to be dismissed over some, some carelessness.
Okay. Have you been hanging out with James Cameron?
Oh my God, no! But I've talked to Susie, his wife.
And they're really big into plant-based.
Oh, super sweet folks. Yeah. And it's really from a more of an environmental standpoint. I'm seeing that a lot on college campuses these days.
Okay.
Is people are telling me they're going for the environment. Like that's totally new to me.
Very plant-based for the environment.
Yeah, plant-based for the environment.
Yeah. Look, I saw the movie. It was very beautiful.
Yeah.
The only problem I had is I felt that sometimes they were rolling out these beautiful athletes and showing them on screen when I didn't think they necessarily represented the top athletes in the world. That's what. So there's a strongman on there, but he's not one of the world's strongest men. And there were some Olympic athletes on there, but they weren't the top athletes. And so for me, I was like, okay, you can find some correlation, but I don't see the causation. That's what I didn't like. And I thought some of the science stuff was a little gimmicky, and the erection stuff, I thought it was a little gimmicky.
Oh my God, that was awesome.
Come
that was
on.
totally my idea. That
really?
was my idea
that
to
makes
do that.
Sense.
Oh my God, that was brilliant.
Sense.
Okay, so all you need to do, I mean, the current culture as now is you need meat for protein. How could you possibly build muscle without? So to counter the culture, all you need is a single example of one person anywhere building any amount of muscle, and then you can't build muscle without meat. Is right. I mean, that's what you need. We are so far on one end.
I guess so.
All you have to do is wait a second. Can you have any endurance? Can you have any strength? That's all we need to do. And I think it showed it beautifully.
To the lowest common denominator.
But
it is.
Have you been out on the streets?
Yeah.
Are these people in life? I mean,
I live in London. That's my problem.
I mean, no, but look, I talk to people on flights all the time. I'm stuck on a 7-hour flight. And I strike up a conversation. It's like people are clueless. I mean, just these real. They don't know anything about nutrition, and that's the way the industry likes it. Wants people confused, so they throw up their hands and eat whatever's put in front of them. That's the way the system is set up. So, I mean, that's all we need. That's all this movie had to show. You could do it. Right? It is possible to not drop over dead by not eating these foods. And then. The erection study, which I will take full credit for.
Oh my gosh.
No, it's actually being done now in a real setting.
And it
didn't purport to that there's but just to show how dramatic, one meal, right? That's wild. Come on. And it shows to the arterial function, right? It's not that they're clearing out their plaque, but just shows your arteries function
and it plays
better.
to the lowest common denominator of someone's manhood. Come on, Michael, you're better than that.
What do men care about, right? No, especially young men. Look, when I go speak at a high school, right? Breast cancer is going to go over their head. I'm going to talk about stroke, dying of a heart disease. That's what grandparents okay. So I talk about athletic performance. I talk about acne. I talk about about things talk about erections. That's what young men care about.
Okay.
Right?
All right. I get it.
All right.
I get it.
All
Look,
right.
what you got to do it. I get it. That's fine. The blood and the plasma's cloudy. I was just like, my scientific mind was like, all right, one looks cloudy, doesn't look cloudy.
Your blood is a milkshake after eating
Where's
a
the science,
cheeseburger.
though? I'm looking at it, so I got these unscientific guys that say it looks cloudy. I mean, does that?
But it is. There's actually something called lactescence.
Okay.
And so that's the cloudiness or the milkiness of your serum.
Okay.
That's what happens after you do it. That's how much fat is in your and the consequences of that fat are the insulin resistance and arterial crippling and all these downturn. So we're just trying, but otherwise it's numbers on the screen. It's numbers in a graph, right? How can we take numbers in a graph and actually make some kind of visual impact of it? That was
I get it, but I would say
you can do it yourself.
But there were no
spin down your blood after a cheeseburger.
Maybe
and you're like,
I'll look at
what?
it. Yeah, I mean, okay, whatever. All right, but also, I mean, there weren't that many top athletes in there. There's not the top of their games. There were just a few select choices.
Maybe.
You took a runner that looked good.
Maybe
God
they
bless her. You look a strong man who's not at the top of the strongman game.
Maybe these athletes.
Maybe, but you know what I'm saying.
This would.
You took one mixed martial arts fight between a vegan and a meat eater, and he happened to lose.
Maybe so all we need to do, open up the mind and have people try it, and then. So why are people eating the way they are? They're eating the way they are because they were taught this is what you eat to be strong. This is what you eat to be fast. This is what you eat for endurance, right? And so just to open their mind and say, wait a second, you can eat this, and still be at the top of your game. Well, maybe I'll give it a try. And so,
in that sense, cool. I get it. Thank you for explaining it to me because I was having a few issues, and I respect you a lot, and I respect what you guys are doing. And look, I went plant-based for a year. I ran a goddamn Ironman triathlon plant-based. So like maybe you're preaching to the choir a little bit, and I was looking for something else. So I get why you're doing it. A lot of great minds, and it's good to have that question in people's minds. So I'll give you that. I'll give you the pass. I know it's going to blow up on Netflix. I know it's already blown up on iTunes.
It's going to go crazy.
So congrats. I would have rather seen you in that movie.
Oh my God. Well, maybe I'll be in some DVD extra or something. I don't know. Maybe.
Okay, that'd be good. Can I tell you about my experience on plant-based last year, and then I want to get into the book a little bit more.
Okay.
So last year, I had someone sitting in that leather chair. His name was John Joseph. He's the lead singer of the hardcore punk band, the Cro-Mags. Been plant-based for 30-some years.
Amazing.
Because he was a Hare Krishna monk back in the day. And he's also done 10 of these Ironman races, which are these really long distance, 12, 13-hour races where you swim and you bike and you run. And so he got in the chair and he was looking at me funny and he said, Brian, I want to challenge you to do a half Ironman. You got 90 days to train. And I was like, you must be crazy, because I had never done endurance training. I mean, I was in okay shape, but I had never done long distance swim or run or anything. And I said, okay, maybe. And then he said, but you're doing it on a plant-based diet. And I was like, what are you doing, John? There's a scene in the movie where he walks in to my Airbnb in New York and I'm cooking eggs and bacon. And he throws it in the trash and he takes me across the street and I'm drinking smoothies. And he said, Brian, you're going to not get injured. You're going to be a better performance. And I'm 47 years old at the same time. And I didn't believe him, but I like John a lot. And he really knows the science. He has a great book called Eat Is for Pussies, which again really kind of addressed this whole I gotta eat and then eat as men. And I appreciated him writing that book, and I'm getting in trouble for the title and all that stuff. Although apparently the publisher was their idea. Anyways, so I started eating plants. I told my wife, she freaked out. She's originally from Bulgaria, where she didn't know anything about plant-based diets, but she adopted and adapted, and all of a sudden she's making black bean quinoa nachos with vegan cheese, and we're rocking and rolling. And I first wasn't eating enough, so I was a little bit calorie deficit. But once I figured that out, I had a great experience. I ran the race, and I felt so good that I kept it up for the whole year. So a year I went plant-based. And towards the end of the year, I just asked myself this, Michael. I said, am I doing this because I'm dogmatic, or am I doing this because this feels like the best nutrition? And I have a history of doing things because I'm dogmatic, or doing things until they kill me. Drinking, drugs, being a banker. So it's true. So I thought, why am I doing this?
Hey everybody, welcome to Wake Forest Veg Trust again. I just want to remind everybody, vendors, thanks for being here. As soon as you finish unloading, please move your vehicle out of the disabled parking and to the large parking lot that is out further a little bit away in the park. We decided to there so that you can be closer, as close as possible to where you're setting up. When to get to that parking lot, just go out of the disabled parking. It
sounds like you're eating better than 99%.
And turn left, and you'll see the big parking lot there. Thanks.
Right, so that's fantastic. Right? I mean, if there was one thing, if you were going to obsessively commit to one thing in your life, rather than alcoholism, I mean, a healthy diet. I mean, the number one cause of death. I have a
healthy diet. I'm just not 100% plant-based.
Right. Okay. But you could eat a healthier diet. Right? And we could all eat a healthier diet, right? Every time, it's a zero-sum game. Every time we put something in our mouth, there's an opportunity cost. There's a lost opportunity to put something even healthier in our mouth. And this goes for anything, right? You eat a banana, you just had a lost opportunity to eat blueberries, which are healthier than a banana, right? So you just put one thing on oatmeal or another thing on your oatmeal. Right. And so that's like, I mean, when you say is X food healthy or not? Is grass-fed beef healthy? Compared to what? Compared to bacon? Absolutely, right? Compared to chickpeas? Nah, that'd be hard, right? But I mean, so everything we eat we should just all try to nudge everything up. And if eating a little bit of animal protein is going to keep you eating all the other wonderful food in your diet, right? I mean, if just that psychologically, right, saying, well, I don't want to be one of them, right, and
say that,
or look, I don't want to worry about holidays or whatever it is. Yeah. If that on a day-to-day basis keeps you, stuffing your face with all those healthy whole plant foods, it's not what you eat today or tomorrow or birthdays, holidays, special occasions. It's what you eat today for like decades from now. What are you going to be in decades? So whatever makes it sustainable for you is the healthiest diet. So if that includes beef, and if otherwise, you would just forget about it, right? So people who go all in, these people like do the cold tofu kind of thing and like all in, and they're like, wow, I feel so good about myself. But then 6 months later, they're back eating cheeseburgers. Well, then maybe if they would have went slower and figured out how to make it work within their lives, make it convenient, and then maybe they would have been doing this. So the 6 months aren't going to help them in the long run, right? So it's really about how knowing your psychology and what's going to keep me in this for the long run, eating as many whole plant foods as possible. And that's really the crux. It's how many whole plant foods are you eating? That if there's one question, and so it's not how much meat are you eating.
Right.
How many whole plant foods? Now, if you eat meat, you're kind of displacing, right? There's a certain number of calories and satiety that goes along with that, and so you may end up at the end of the day eating less whole. But in terms of health, it's how many whole plant foods you're eating. Full stop. And the primary reason these other foods aren't good is because they may undercut your whole plant food consumption, in addition to whatever else they have bad in them. So yes, some have saturated fat or trans fats or too much sodium or cholesterol, but part of the reason that they're unhealthful comparatively is because it's that bite for bite. It's that substituting one for another. And so if you're gonna eat meat, make it the best meat. Right? You're gonna eat cheese, make it the expensive, really high-end cheese. These people are eating Velveeta and American cheese and they're just like, they don't even taste it. They're like watching TV, eating Kentucky Fried Chicken or something. It's like you're not even enjoying, you're hurting yourself. You're gonna hurt yourself, right? Then you might as well, right, have the best scotch or whatever, right? But that's like the worst of both worlds. It's like you're not even deriving any pleasure from it, right? So look, if you're gonna eat chocolate, eat some really good chocolate. And then it's gonna be expensive, and so you're not gonna get a lot of it, and it's gonna be a special occasion, and it's gonna be, your body can bounce back from intermittent insults. It's kind of the day-to-day stuff that really builds up.
Okay. Now, if I go out and shoot an elk and eat some wild elk, and that's a whole other thing that people get mad at me about, but are you definitively saying that is going to hurt me, having that meat, as opposed to having a whole food?
That's absolutely the healthiest. So elk and moose, 2% fat by weight. 2% fat. When you go to the store and it says extra lean, that's like 28% fat. That's the extra lean, right? 2%. So that is and so that's actually what chicken used to be in 1896. 2%. Now it's 23%, 10 times more fat. But But yeah, so wild-caught game without lead ammunition, that's critically important. If you shoot that up with lead ammunition, it's a bad thing. But, so copper-jacketed, no lead, but yeah, venison. And so there's actually experiments done. Primarily, there's a research team in Australia where they did compared eating wild, it was kangaroo there, but that's like their venison.
Right.
Compared to conventional store-bought meat, it's a significantly lower bump in postprandial inflammation after eating, significantly less inflammation in their blood within 4 hours after eating the kangaroo meat compared to conventionally bought meat. Now, you could argue, why eat anything pro-inflammatory at all? If you instead ate plant foods, you actually would have an anti-inflammatory reaction. Okay, fine, but if you're going to eat meat, that's absolutely the least harmful meat is the wild-caught meat.
Okay, fair enough. To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description.
Hey everyone, so I'm super excited to announce our brand new project, which is the Off the Hook truck. So we are traveling around the coastal region of the south of England, and we're handing out free portions of tow fish and chips to encourage people to try it, but also to generate conversations about veganism, the plight of marine animals, but also just the plight of animals and the environment in general. So we're going to be traveling to different areas. We're going to be handing out the tow fish, which is one of our signature dishes at Unity Diner. We're going to be getting people's opinions, and we're also going to be spreading the word about veganism as well. Would you like to try some? Yeah, please help yourself. I mean, oh no, it's completely free, but it's vegan fish and chips. Well, I'm really glad that you like the chips. That's good. Perfect. We're 50% of the way there, then, right? And the tow fish is good.
Fish. On the yes! My God! I'm so.
It's fine. The tartar missed me, so it's all fine. I don't mind being attacked by vegan food.
I tried to talk on the beginning when I tasted the fish.
Yeah.
That's not fish.
Yeah.
I was thinking it's real fish.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, you were thinking it was real fish. That's good.
To be fair, that is really nice. I'd never go completely vegan.
No. Is it like
I come from a farming background.
Ah, what farm? What kind of farming background?
Dairy,
Dairy. And so you were raised on a dairy farm?
pretty much.
What were your experiences like on the dairy farm? What did you do like day-to-day stuff?
Yeah.
So like what sort of stuff would that be like? Milking the cows? Did you like impregnate the cows? Did you take the babies away? No. But was that done on the farm? No. What happened to the babies on the farm? Even the boys?
Sometimes some of them went off for meat.
Yeah, some were off like for veal perhaps or something. All this, yeah, absolutely. And what about say when the females, when they can no longer produce milk, they all went to slaughter?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, usually. Did you ever go to the slaughterhouse with them? Yeah. And did you ever go into the kill floor and see the process, or was it kind of like dropping them off in the yard?
Very humane.
Yeah. And so define like what that would look like. What's a humane slaughter?
Where it's instant.
Instant. So.
Rather than the halal version, which is bloody unusual.
And what does the word humane mean then?
The reason they don't suffer.
Well, if I was to say you're a humane person, what attributes would I be bestowing upon you?
I'm not cruel to animals.
Not cruel to animals. And I guess, yeah, like humane, it's more of like, compassion, benevolence. It's not just about how we treat animals, it's how we are, how we treat everyone, exactly. And so if we think of, humane being about compassion and benevolence, can we compassionately take the life of an animal if we don't have to? Yeah, awkward timing. Yeah, it is a difficult one.
So I do enjoy eating meat.
Yeah.
But we had like a small herd in.
Yeah, very small herd, yeah.
A couple of years it was to turkeys. I'm not gonna lie. A couple of years.
Yeah.
We've also ended up with turkeys.
No, right.
And when they become more than just a meal.
Yeah.
More than just meat instead of a wrapper.
Yeah.
It does become harder.
Yeah, of course.
It does become harder.
If we do away with dairy and stuff like that,
yeah,
then a heck of a lot of animals aren't going to exist anymore.
true, yeah. I mean, well, the thing is, like, the animals that we breed into production now have been selectively bred, right? You know, they're not necessarily genetically natural animals, but even so, the way I see it is, we have driven, you know, a lot of animals to the brink of extinction. A, because farmers hunt predators to protect livestock, to protect profits, which makes sense. We've also destroyed huge amounts of habitats, you know, deforestation and such, to make way for grazing.
That's maybe true in foreign countries, but not in the UK.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if you drive around the UK, the majority of the land is flat countryside, right? And it didn't used to be. It used to be rainforest, because we had rainforests, so big forest lands. And we've destroyed all of that, mainly for agriculture, 80% of it. It used to be. It absolutely did. Well, it hasn't, because if you think about fields, it has. Before agriculture, let's say for the sake of argument, it's just forest lands. So we've decimated huge amounts of forest land to make way for, you know, animal grazing, also plant-based agriculture, a lot of that to feed the animals in general. And so we've actually taken a lot of animals, you know, where their habitats, and so if we restored the land and reforested and rewilded it, we'd have less cattle, of course, and less sheep, but we'd also have a huge abundance of natural biodiversity, so natural wildlife that could replenish, which would be a lot more harmonious for the ecosystem. It's green, but it doesn't mean it's healthy. It doesn't mean that, but it doesn't mean it's healthy, because we decimate huge amounts of land. And if you go across these fields that are used for grazing, there's not really much life apart from the animals that are being placed there. But it's the agriculture. Yeah. Absolutely it is. Absolutely.
Helps the environment.
Well, so we plant shrubberies, for instance, to say, and that can encourage, you know, biodiversity to come back.
I mean, the farm that I worked on, we had very wide borders with wildflowers and stuff like that.
Exactly. But let's say you take the whole farm, okay, so, and you leave that farm, okay, and you allow that farm to replenish, or you rewild or restock it, that would be much more harmonious than like a plot of wildflowers, you know, around the perimeter. And so I don't deny that some farmers do have environmental, you know, incentives and do help, but actually overall their industry is still detrimental to the environment in general. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah? You like it? Good. And one of the things that we're asking people is, do we think fish feel pain? What do you think? Do fish feel pain? Yeah? Yeah. And do you think the fact that they feel pain, should we view how we treat them differently because they can suffer? Yeah. Do you think that the enjoyment of something justifies what happens? I know, yeah. I mean, that was how I was as well. Yeah.
I like lamb. I love lamb.
I don't like that.
Yeah. When you think of like little baby lambs, and it makes you feel a little bit more uncomfortable. Oh, could we get another portion, please? Yeah, that's how I felt about it as well. Do you think that if it came to killing a lamb yourself, you'd be able to do it?
The trouble because of our generation, it's a bit different.
Yes.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with that. Yeah. And that's it.
I think in the future it could take on, but like I say, our generation is just that's what you used to.
Yep.
You know,
Absolutely.
And it's changing.
Yeah, it's all about change, isn't it? And I absolutely agree with that. I think it's important that we become more conscious of our choices, and especially like lambs and fish. And we see them in fields, especially lambs during lambing season. They're so cute and adorable, and we don't think about them going to the slaughterhouse at the end. And even with fish, we don't think of fish maybe as the same as cows and pigs and such, but there's still animals that feel and suffer that we've acknowledged. And yeah. But there's on these flights.
Next Sunday we'll look at the lamb up at the mid-sauce on. I'll be like.
Have a look. Well, tell you what, take this flyer as well, because there's some information on there.
I've got one.
Oh, you've got one. Okay. There's some documentaries on the bottom here that we really recommend.
Yeah, I saw that on Netflix.
Yeah, have you got Netflix?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, give these two a watch. They're really interesting, and they're not. That one's about the environment. That's more about health. But this top one's about what happens to animals in the UK. So if you want to know about what happens to animals, this is free to watch. 45 minutes long at this website, and it's definitely eye-opening, I think. Yeah, give it a watch and see what you think. Yeah. Have a lovely day. Thank you for the conversation, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah. Oh, good. Oh, I'm happy to hear. That's wonderful. What would stop you guys from trying veganism, do you think? Is it a taste thing, convenience thing, or just like a habit thing? So it's interesting. I've had this conversation a couple of times because it's a really important issue. And so this is entirely non-GMO. And the majority of the soy that we produce, 85% of it is fed to animals and for animal agriculture. agriculture. So in the UK we use 1.8 million tons of soy every year, and that's all GMO. But most of the vegan products use non-GMO soya, and it's actually sourced from places like France and Europe. So it's not from the Amazon, which is incredibly unsustainable, of course. So the unsustainability of soy and the problems are normally to do with animal agriculture. But it's a really, really great question. Yeah. Excellent. Well, on the back of this flyer, there's a few documentaries, a couple on Netflix. I'll take that, don't worry. So if you have the time, I would really highly recommend watching them. There's one about the environment, what the hell's about health, and this, yeah, please. And this one at the top, Land of Hope and Glory, is 45 minutes long. There you go, sir.
I've seen Cowspiracy and What the Hell.
What do you think of Cowspiracy?
Yeah, really good. To me,
help yourself. Yeah.
Slaughtering a cow humanely with a bolt, that doesn't upset me.
Sure.
The effects it has environmentally is more what would drive me. So my mate who's very into this, he's sort of educated me into that.
Yeah.
I've even said to my girlfriend who's vegetarian, I'm like, oh, well, I'm just keen to go down that route.
Good for you.
More about the environmental impact of food rather than the human aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing about veganism. There's so many reasons to go vegan on plant-based and such. And from the animal perspective, I would just say check out Land of Hope and Glory, because that's about the ethics. Yeah, definitely. It's 45 minutes long, free to watch. It's not pleasant, but I think it really talks about humane slaughter and what that looks like and whether or not it's right.
We do eat meat, or I do eat meat.
Sure.
But I don't eat lots. I eat ethically reared and sourced meat, local meat. A little, not very often, rather than crap meat.
Sure.
So I like everything in moderation.
I don't want to keep you too much longer, because I appreciate the time, but just when we use words like humane, what does the word humane mean? Like, is that objective?
I think putting a bolt to its head as painless as possible.
Sure.
Obviously,
not transporting it too far.
But what does the actual word mean? Is like just if I said you're a humane person, what kind of attributes would I be bestowing upon you?
It would be a tranquil.
That's a funny question.
I can imagine, right? Yeah.
Humane.
I wouldn't harm anyone.
I guess it's a contradiction, because humans are fucking everything up, really.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it is funny, but I mean, the word humane is supposed to be where this sacred animal who is good to the earth, so it's a contradiction.
It is, and that's the point I was driving at. It's like, so I think the dictionary says it's like compassion, benevolence, those kind of words. And I guess the last question I ask you is,
we may well be, but maybe not.
well, that's the thing, right? And if we don't have to take the life of an animal, can it be done in a compassionate or benevolent way? That's what led me to veganism, because I just realised I didn't have to, and it didn't. Even though I use words like humane and ethical, at the end of the day, if it's unnecessary, then to take their life can surely never be compassionate, or therefore humane either.
Yeah.
And I respect you guys stopping. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. And I really appreciate you stopping. Thank you for trying it. Lovely to meet you. You're welcome. Oh, good. Nice. Amazing. Cool. Have a great day, guys. Thank you. Do you think that veganism is something any of you would consider trying? Yeah. Yeah? Well, this flyer's got a bunch of information on it, and it also has some documentaries on the back. There's a couple on Netflix, but if you don't have Netflix, this one at the top is at this website that's completely free to watch. It talks about meat, dairy, eggs, and what happens to animals in the process. Yeah, definitely. I really hope you like it. You're welcome. Have a wonderful day. The thing about veganism is take the food that you like already. So say like spaghetti bolognese, mac and cheese, and just change a few of the ingredients. So spaghetti bolognese, take out the beef mince, put soya mince or lentils or something, and you've got a vegan dish. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just change small things in the foods you already like. That's a really good question, yeah. So, from an ethical perspective, vegetarianism is often the stance that it's wrong to take the life of an animal to slaughter. But what many people don't realise is that all dairy cows and all egg-laying hens are still slaughtered anyway. So the principles of vegetarianism are the same as veganism, but with dairy, cows are forcibly impregnated because they only produce milk to feed their children. So the babies will be taken away from them within 24 hours because the farmer can then sell more milk. The babies will either be sold for veal in Europe, if they're male they'll often be shot soon after birth because they're a byproduct, or they'll be raised to join the dairy herd. And this happens, there's forced impregnation, separation of their babies. It happens for me 5, 6, 7 years and they're still sent to the slaughterhouse. And in the egg industry, male chicks are useless and they won't grow to be the same size as the chickens we raise for meat. They're a different breed. And so all male chicks in this country and indeed across the world are killed as soon as they're born, either being gassed or by being thrown in a macerator which grinds them up alive. And then egg-laying hens. They've got 72 weeks and then they're sent to a slaughterhouse as well. And then Yes, yeah. Maybe not the answer. Yeah, I appreciate it. But this is. Yeah. 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 Do you think that kind of like personal preference of cuteness means that their worth of life should be different? But we are like because we love dogs and we love cats. And yeah, exactly. No. Do you think morally there is a difference between the animals we wouldn't eat and the animals we would eat, or is it morally the same? Yeah. But with that question, absolutely right. It's cultural, it's traditional. But do you think culture should dictate?
Hey, Wake Forest Bed Trust, I just want to announce that in about 8 minutes, maybe 9, we're going to start the Code Blue movie, which goes for an hour and 42 minutes. We're going to start it hopefully right on time, right at 10 o'clock.
Vegan and his wife.
Yeah.
And he was one of the biggest meat eaters of home.
Right. I think the biggest problem with being vegan is that I haven't got enough time to work out what kind of eat.
But that, you see, that, and I agree with that. At the beginning, you've got to check labels, make sure. But then once you know it, you know it. That's true, some wine, but it's getting easier. But as you say, once you, or as I was saying, once you know it, you know it, and then you know I can have this, I shouldn't have this, I can't have this, whatever.
Where I work, we get free food, and I feel like plant-based food.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Yeah. We're getting there. We're trying.
Then I'd be vegetarian.
Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't go out and do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's there's an expression, isn't there?
Chicken factory, I wouldn't eat chicken.
No. It's because we're so detached from the process. We can. That's what.
Yeah, if we just see like just pigs, it means nothing, does it?
No. Because we don't see what happens to the animal up until the point they arrive on the supermarket or in the restaurant, and we're so detached from it. And so this documentary here is about maybe reattaching ourselves to the process and becoming less distant from what happens, because it's only through education that we can be informed to make decisions, and knowledge is power, and the more we know, the more we can be true to how we feel, And we're all against animal cruelty, but we turn a blind eye to what happens in slaughterhouses and in farms because we like to think it's free range, ethical, humane, but these are just labels. They don't mean anything in reality for the animals. I really appreciate you stopping. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome. Thank you so much for trying it, and it's a pleasure meeting you both. Have a wonderful day. Lovely to meet you. One of the questions that I'm kind of asking people is, what would stop you from trying veganism, do you think?
To be honest, we've introduced it as a step, as a thing. We're using soybean replacements instead for spagballs, chilies and all that. We're doing, we've got the large bits as well.
The chunk
ones, which actually kind of like you can replace quite a bit.
Not too bad, right?
Yeah, so there's kind of initial steps there, like doing like three meals a week or whatever, and then
what is it?
Open to it.
I'm really happy to hear that. And what is it that's kind of leading that openness and that change?
Probably more the animal cruelty is one side, the pollution side of it, the fact that the CO2 and everything like that.
Dreadful, isn't it? Yeah. And one of the reasons we're focused on fish with this right now is because of the pollution from the fishing industry, but the plastic from the nets that are dumped, but also just the degradation of our oceans from overfishing as well. You think that your end kind of point would be veganism 7 days a week?
I think generally yes, but I don't think I'd rule out a steak every now and then as a treat.
As a treat?
Like, just like actually good, like big, nice bit of meat rather than nasty processed.
Well, that's exactly what I said to myself. Before I went vegan, I said to myself, it's all right, one day I'm going to, because I used to like steak as well, one day I'm going to have steak again, one day I'll have a cheeseburger, a beef cheeseburger again. And I said that to myself just to make it a little bit more palatable, to make that check step. But when I've been vegan for like maybe 3 weeks, I just stopped wanting those products. And my taste buds changed, my attitudes changed, and the more I knew, the less I wanted it. So I completely resonate, because that you are me 4 years ago, so to speak, and it just takes, try it, see how you feel, and I'm sure you maybe won't want those things after a little bit of time as well. Watch these documentaries, definitely check out Land of Hope and Glory, I would say, because it's all UK based, and it is about the ethical aspect, the animal cruelty. But if you're interested in the environment, conspiracies are must watch as well. What do you think about you trying veganism? Would you try it?
Me personally, no. It's not my thing. So
what do you think would hold you back?
Probably the most common thing I find is the texture of things.
Texture? So it's like a...
So, and some things like, certain things like bacon.
Yeah.
And not so much sausages anymore, just some of the vegan stuff we try free from and all the others.
Yeah.
So quite nice.
Yeah. Just before you try it, because I don't want to keep you too long, do you think that like the enjoyments, like the taste of the bacon or something, does that justify what happens to the animals? Like,
I've been brought up on it.
Yeah.
So, that's the way you need to go. Excellent. probably a little bit past the change easily.
But never doubt yourself for that reason.
Wouldn't stop me convinced this not. Let's say we our bolognese doing we go home now. Yeah, whatever the name is. Yeah.
But it's definitely something that's changing and evolving, and people are learning more about it.
Yeah, just on a bit slow to adapt. Well, I wouldn't like just
well, I appreciate that, but watch these documentaries at the bottom if you have the chance. These two on Netflix are great, but definitely check out Land of Hope and Glory. It feeds into what I was just saying about what happens to animals. It's all UK based, and the question I'd say is if you watch it, or even if you don't, but you think that what happens to animals is maybe wrong or cruel, ask yourself, if it's not good enough for my eyes, why would it be good enough for my stomach? And
I think also it's sustainable.
It's not sustainable either. And you said you wouldn't lie to me, and I would say to you that you've been very honest with me saying how you feel, and I would say that if you're honest to yourself, that you maybe would feel that veganism is something you should pursue because of the sustainability and ethical thing. So don't lie to yourself either is what I would say. I really hope you enjoyed the topic. Excellent. I really appreciate your open-mindedness, so thanks for the conversation as well. Yeah.
He looks older than his age. He is funded by meat companies on his podcast. They're his #1 sponsor.
Dr. Khan, before we get started, why don't you just tell everybody what your background is? You will be representing the vegan portion of this discussion.
Hey everybody, this is Klaus from The Greenhouse. You might have seen the debate between Joe Rogan and vegan cardiologist Dr. Joel Kahn. Well, I sat down with Dr. Kahn recently to speak about this debate. And we spoke about other topics as well, including the upcoming film The Game Changers, as well as the carnivore diet. It's a really fascinating interview. I hope you enjoy.
Dr. Joel Kahn, thank you very much for being here today. Appreciate your time. Let's talk about The Game Changers. Everyone's talking about it. Have you seen it, and what's your take?
Yeah, I've seen Game Changers, and it will be a game-changing movie opening, very soon, because there still is a disbelief out there in the public that you can fuel your body in a teenager, an adult, and an elderly person and really get optimal health. And these athletes are great examples of powering themselves with natural whole food diets, and we see it in race car drivers and tennis players and football players and swimmers and surfers and everything that's featured. And obviously that really peak part about sexual health and male sexual health, I think it's going to just build confidence and belief that make this change for your health, for the environmental health, for the animal cruelty, and those issues. So I think it's going to be a big winner.
You mentioned male sexual health. A lot of people talking about this scene. What was it like?
Yeah, this is a big deal because 40% of men at age 40, 50% of men at age 50, keep going, 60 at 60, have erectile dysfunction. It's a quality of life issue, and it's a clue to clogged heart arteries, which is really the big entry into my main passion and practice. But it's a scene of 3 young athletes at the University of Southern California that should be in perfect health. They found a machine, a urologist friend of mine found a machine that put on their male apparatus, and they went to sleep, but they went to sleep 2 times, one after a fatty meat-based meal.
If you're a business owner, you can expect more from Cox Business. Switch today.
All right, everybody, sorry for the delay. This is the Code Blue movie. Started a few minutes late, but enjoy.